Hollywood was rocked last night when Tom Cruise stormed off Jimmy Kimmel's show after a heated exchange turned personal. What began as a routine promotional appearance quickly spiraled into one of the most shocking on-air confrontations in recent talk show history, leaving audiences stunned and the industry buzzing. The studio lights dimmed as Jimmy Kimmel adjusted his tie, glancing at the production notes one last time before the cameras rolled. Tonight's guest was Hollywood royalty, Tom Cruise promoting his latest action blockbuster. The audience hummed with anticipation. Tickets for this taping had sold out in minutes. "We've got a great show for you tonight," Kimmel said with his trademark smirk after his monologue wrapped. "Coming up, the man who's been defying gravity, aging, and probably some laws of physics. Please welcome Tom Cruise." The crowd erupted as Cruz bounded onto the stage with his megawatt smile. He high-fived audience members along the way, arriving at Kimmel's desk with the energy of a man half his age. They exchanged pleasantries, Cruz settling into the guest chair with easy confidence. "So, Tom, this new film, looks like you're still doing your own stunts at what, 62 now?" Kimmel began. 61, Jimmy," Cruz corrected with a laugh. "And yes, absolutely. The team we've assembled is the best in the business. The stunts in this one push boundaries even for us," Kimmel nodded, but there was something calculated in his eyes. Those familiar with his interviewing style sensed a shift. The softball questions about the film lasted barely 5 minutes before Kimmel's tone changed. "You know, Tom, I was reading something interesting the other day about some of your past associations," Kimmel said, his voice casual but his intent clear to everyone in the room, "particularly about your relationship with certain controversial figures who've been in the news lately." The temperature in the studio seemed to drop several degrees. Cruz's smile remained fixed, but those watching closely noticed it no longer, reached his eyes. "I'm here to talk about the film, Jimmy," Cruz replied smoothly. "It's a project we've poured 3 years into." Sure, Kimmel nodded, not backing down. "But don't you think your audience deserves to know who they're supporting when they buy a ticket? Especially given some of those relationships have raised serious questions." The audience grew uncomfortably quiet. This wasn't the light-hearted banter they'd expected. "I think my work speaks for itself," Cruz countered, his professionalism holding. "And I respect my fans enough to let them make their own decisions." Kimmel smirked. "Respect is an interesting word coming from someone who's been connected to—" "Let me stop you there," Cruz interrupted, his voice level but firm. "I came here in good faith to discuss a film that hundreds of people worked incredibly hard on. If you wanted to have a different conversation, your team could have approached mine beforehand." The tension was palpable now. Camera operators exchanged glances. The production assistant by the teleprompter was frantically signaling to the producer. "Don't be so sensitive, Tom," Kimmel said with a dismissive wave. "It's just a question. Most celebrities can handle a little hardball these days. Unless there's something you're particularly worried about people finding out?" Cruz leaned forward in his chair. 20 years I've been coming on shows like this. Never once have I disrespected a host or their platform. I'd appreciate the same courtesy." "Courtesy?" Kimmel repeated, raising his eyebrows. "Is that what you call it when you demand approval over interview questions? When your people insist certain topics are off limits?" "The rest of Hollywood plays ball, Tom," the audience murmured uncomfortably. This wasn't entertainment, it was becoming a public ambush. "I've never asked for special treatment," Cruz replied, his famous composure beginning to crack. "But there's a difference between an interview and whatever this is," Kimmel scoffed. "The difference is most stars don't live in a bubble protected from real questions. Maybe if you stepped outside it occasionally—" "You know what's interesting, Jimmy?" Cruz said, sitting straighter. "You've built a career on being the everyman, the relatable guy. But the person I'm seeing tonight seems more interested in creating a viral moment than having an actual conversation." The audience let out a collective, "Ooh!" Kimmel's face flushed. "Slightly. At least I don't surround myself with yes-men who shield me from reality, Kimmel shot back. How would you even know what's relatable anymore? Cruz shook his head. This is disappointing. I've always respected you as an interviewer. Past tense noted, Kimmel quipped. Maybe respect is something earned, not demanded. Speaking of which, I was particularly interested in your connection with— We're not doing this, Cruz said firmly, his patience visibly wearing thin. I'm happy to talk about the film, my career, even my perspective on the industry. But I won't sit here while you try to ambush me with innuendo about my personal life for ratings. The commercial break couldn't come soon enough. As the on-air light dimmed, the set erupted into frantic activity. Producers huddled with Kimmel while Cruz sat stone-faced, his publicist immediately at his side, whispering urgently. The audience, witnessing this unscripted drama, buzzed with excited whispers. He can't just walk off, one producer was overheard saying. We still have the second segment. But Tom Cruise, veteran of countless interviews, knew exactly what was happening. This wasn't a mishap. It was by design. And as the floor director counted down to their return from commercial, the tension in Studio One at the El Capitan Entertainment Center had only begun to build. 5, 4, 3. The floor director's silent gestures completed the countdown. The on-air light flashed red, and the cameras swung back into position. Kimmel's smile returned, rehearsed and ready, but there was a new edge to it. The scent of blood in the water. Welcome back to the show. We're here with Tom Cruise, discussing his new film, Kimmel said, his tone deliberately lighter, as if the previous tension had never happened. Before the break, we were just getting into some of the more interesting aspects of your career, Tom. Cruz had used the break strategically. His publicist had made frantic calls while the studio exec tried mediating between teams. But the star himself sat composed, having made his decision. Jimmy, Cruz said evenly, I think we need to be clear about something. This interview was arranged to discuss the film, a project that represents the work of hundreds of talented people, not to rehash tabloid rumors or personal matters that have nothing to do with the movie. The audience was so quiet you could hear the air conditioning hum. That's the thing about being a public figure, though, isn't it? Kimmel pressed, ignoring the warning. The line between personal and professional gets blurry. People invest in the whole package. People invest in entertainment, Cruz countered. They don't tune in expecting an ambush designed to humiliate your guests. Kimmel's expression hardened. Asking legitimate questions isn't an ambush, Tom. Most celebrities understand that publicity isn't just about controlled narratives and softball questions. Your fans deserve authenticity. A muscle twitched in Cruz's jaw. Authenticity? Is that what you call blindsiding a guest with topics your producers explicitly agreed were off-limits? Oh, so there are off-limit topics? Kimmel pounced, his eyes lighting up. What exactly are you afraid of people finding out about your relationships with— This isn't about fear, Cruz cut in, his voice carrying surprising authority. It's about professionalism and basic respect. Two things seemingly in short. Supply tonight. The cameraman shifted uncomfortably, focusing on Kimmel's increasingly flushed face. Let's talk about respect then, Kimmel said, leaning forward. Don't your fans deserve respect? The respect of knowing who they're really supporting? Especially when it comes to your long-standing association with— My fans know exactly who I am, Cruz interrupted, his legendary cool finally cracking. 4 decades in this business, over 50 films. My work speaks for itself. Does it, though? Kimmel pressed, sensing vulnerability. Because from where I'm sitting, it seems like there's a lot your carefully managed image doesn't show. Like your family situations. The mention of family changed something in Cruz's demeanor. His eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly. My family is not a topic for your entertainment, he said, his voice dropping dangerously low. Kimmel, either missing or ignoring the warning signs, pressed on. But when you've gone through such public family dramas, surely that becomes fair. Game? Especially when those choices were influenced by the same controversial figures I've been trying to ask about. The studio temperature seemed to plummet. Even Kimmel's most loyal audience members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "You know what amazes me, Jimmy?" Cruz said, his composure returning but with ice in his tone. "How someone who presents himself as compassionate on camera can be so deliberately cruel when he thinks it serves his ratings." The audience gasped. This was uncharted territory, a genuine, unscripted confrontation between two industry titans. Kimmel's laugh was hollow. "I'm just doing my job. Asking questions people want answers to." "No," Cruz said, shaking his head. "Your job is entertainment. This is something else entirely." "So enlighten me, Tom," Kimmel said with performative sincerity. "What exactly is my job when interviewing someone who's spent years controlling every aspect of their public image?" Cruz sat perfectly still for a moment, then replied with devastating calm. "Your job, at minimum, is to remember that the people sitting in this chair are human beings, not just content for your social media clips." With those words hanging in the air, the once cheerful studio felt like a battleground. A producer frantically signaled from off-camera, damage control mode now fully activated. But it was too late. The confrontation had escalated beyond anyone's control, and the final breaking point was now just moments away. Kimmel's jaw tightened as he glanced briefly at his producers, who were urgently gesturing for him to pivot. But something in him refused to back down. Perhaps it was pride, perhaps ratings, or perhaps the momentum of live television pushing him forward. Whatever the reason, he made the fateful decision to double down. "That's rich coming from you, Tom," Kimmel said with a sardonic smile. "Lecturing me about humanity, while you've let certain organizations dictate who you can and cannot have in your life, including your own daughter." The words landed like a physical blow. For a split second, genuine pain flashed across Cruz's face before his expression hardened into something the audience had never seen before. Not in any film, not in any interview. This wasn't acting. This was raw. "We're done here," Cruz said, his voice quiet but resolute as he removed his microphone. Kimmel, suddenly realizing he'd crossed a line even he hadn't intended to cross, attempted damage control. "Tom, come on, I'm just—" "No," Cruz interrupted, standing up. "You wanted your viral moment. Congratulations, you got it. But understand something, what you just did wasn't brave journalism. It wasn't truth-seeking. It was cruelty for entertainment, and I won't be part of it." The audience sat in stunned silence. This wasn't the carefully choreographed TV they were accustomed to. This was reputation-damaging, career-impacting reality unfolding before their eyes. "Tom, you're overreacting," Kimmel tried, his smirk now completely gone, panic entering his voice. "Sit down, let's talk about—" "There's nothing left to talk about," Cruz replied, facing the audience rather than Kimmel. "I've always believed in respecting fans enough to give them my best, on screen and off. That's why I've been doing this for over 40 years. But respect goes both ways." He turned back to Kimmel, addressing him directly, not with anger, but with disappointment that somehow cut deeper. "I hope this moment was worth it for you." Without another word, Tom Cruise walked across the stage and through the exit door. Producers scrambled. The band didn't know whether to play, and the audience sat in shocked silence before uncertain applause and murmurs filled the void. Kimmel, visibly shaken despite his attempts to play it cool, fumbled for words. "Well, that wasn't in the script. We'll be right back after this break with somebody." The weak joke fell flat, meeting only uncomfortable silence. As the on-air light went dark, chaos erupted. Network executives were already on the phone. Social media exploded. Within minutes, Cruz walks off and Kimmel crosses line were trending worldwide. Outside the studio, Cruz's team efficiently moved him through the back exit, bypassing the waitings. Paparazzi who had no idea of the bombshell that had just dropped. Inside his SUV, Cruz sat silently as his publicist frantically worked phones, attempting to contain the situation. "Tom, I'm so sorry," his publicist began. "We never should have agreed to—" "It's done," Cruz said simply, his voice steady. "Now, some lines shouldn't be crossed, even for publicity." Back in the studio, Kimmel faced furious network executives. "What were you thinking?" one demanded. "That family comment was never approved." "It just happened," Kimmel said defensively, but the words sounded hollow even to him. Within hours, the footage, unedited, leaked online. By morning, the confrontation dominated every entertainment news outlet. Industry veterans called it one of the most genuine and uncomfortable moments in talk show history. The public reaction was swift and decisive. While some praised Kimmel for asking tough questions, the overwhelming sentiment sided with Cruz. Even critics who had been skeptical of the actor in the past recognized the boundary violation for what it was. 3 days later, as Kimmel's ratings plummeted and advertiser concerns mounted, the host opened his show with something rare in television: a genuine apology. "I crossed a line," he admitted to the camera, no audience present. "In trying to create a moment, I forgot the human cost. To Tom Cruise and his family, I sincerely apologize." Cruz never publicly addressed the incident. He didn't need to. His dignified exit spoke volumes about boundaries, respect, and the line between entertainment and exploitation. When his film opened 2 weeks later to record numbers, industry insiders noted that sometimes standing your ground earns something far more valuable than momentary publicity: enduring respect. As for Jimmy Kimmel Live, the show eventually recovered, but not without changes. The incident became a watershed moment in celebrity interviews, a reminder that even in the pursuit of ratings, some lines should remain uncrossed. The confrontation that began as an attempt to generate buzz ended up generating something far more significant: a conversation about respect in an industry too often lacking it.